News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Here's a little Trump montage on Iran before we take James and Cisco's call on the shooting, Iran getting attacked, and what the response should be by Israel. Also, shortly thereafter, we're getting right into the longshoreman thing, how much it could cripple our economy, and how these union guys have totally lost me, and I've totally turned on them. Wait till you hear how nasty this guy is, how much of a mobster he is, and actually the charges he's been investigated on, I think implicated on in RICO charges, mob-related type RICO charges. And wait till you hear how much he makes, and what he drives, and what he has as a boat, or a yacht, I should say. You're not going to believe it. And this guy's talking about this crap. It's unbelievable. Here first is Trump on Iran.
The world right now is spiraling out of control. When I was president, Iran was in total check. The Iranians were starved for cash. Iran was on the verge of bankruptcy. They had no money left. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah, the people they're fighting now. They would have been willing to make any deal. You could have made any deal, but Kamala flooded them with American cash.
Okay, and I agree very much. Let's go to where the questions we're asking are, should Israel act proportionally or finish the job? Do you support Israel taking out Iran's nuclear facilities, oil refineries, and its leaders? And which presidential candidate has helped more by this ongoing war? To me, it's Trump. None of this was going on under Trump. The world's on fire under Kamala Biden. James and Cisco, you've called in at 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Hi, WBAP.
Okay, riddle me this. Iran is going to shoot a nuclear bomb into Israel. What are they going to do about the cloud that's going to spread radiation all over them? It's like committing suicide.
You know, if your stated goal is to wipe Israel off the map, and Israel is the little Satan and the U.S. is the big Satan, I mean, these people, if they blow themselves up to kill a Jew, that brings them martyrdom. I mean, do you think they're going to care about nuclear fallout?
Well, the nuclear fallout is a worse death than the explosion.
Well, do you think they're worried about that? Is a jihadi worried about the explosion death when they blow themselves up?
Well, they're going to kill Hamas, which Pakistan is closer. Then the radiation, the cloud, is going to cover, that whole area. And it's going to kill everybody.
As you know, it depends on where it goes.
Right. They can't control the wind, though. That's what I'm thinking.
But they can study it and do their best to see which way the fallout will go. And, they want to destroy Saudi Arabia, because the Iranians are Sunni. And I'm sorry, I think they're Shia. I always get those two confused, but I think they're Shia, and the Saudi Arabians are Sunni. If I'm wrong, it's the other way around. But they despise each other. And in fact, as you know, Iran has dirt-herding terrorists in Yemen, which has no government, shooting ballistic missiles and having the greatest Navy battles that we've had since World War II for 9-hour drone battles, ballistic missiles from Yemen shot at our Navy warships. And Joe Biden lets this continue to happen, doesn't end that. So they're funding it. If it goes southeast, it'll go into Saudi Arabia, which they love. They're shooting missiles to destroy Saudi Arabia's defense systems all the time for the Houthis. So I don't think they're going to care. I think if it goes over Saudi Arabia, they'll be happy.
Yeah. It just shows the insanity of the Iranian people, because it's like committing suicide.
Yeah, so let me ask you this.
A terrible death.
Let me ask you this. By the way, did you see the on HBO the series on Chernobyl?
No, I didn't get to see that.
Okay, if you have HBO, listen to this. It is not a documentary. I don't like documentaries. I really don't. I do enough news. It's my job. So, my wife watches them, and I'm like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see this. And it's like doing my job. And then also I say things all the time, like I'm commentating. She doesn't want to shut up. So this is an acting. It's acted out, and it's factual, and it's amazing. That show's about the fallout. like you talked about. And remember, I don't know, it was ashes were coming down like snow, and the kids and the families, they all went out and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's snowing!" And they died obviously within weeks or months. So a terrible death, like you said. Yeah, I agree. But I don't. So let me ask. It sounds like you agree with me that that this should be they should take out the nuclear program as well now, shouldn't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're going to kill themselves, and I don't know why they haven't figured that out. And one more thing.
Wait, why? Who hasn't figured that out? I'm sorry.
Iran hasn't figured that out.
Let me tell you about that. Here's the deal. I've heard some people that are incredible experts on this and such, and once they get a nuclear weapon, it's a game changer. It's done. It is done. Like they will be a permanent state sponsor of terror throughout the world and never be able to be stopped from that point on, because they'll launch that nuclear weapon if they feel threatened. And so it cannot happen. And Joe Biden saying today he wants a proportional response is disgusting. It's disgusting. And then the day before that, right before the top leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, was taken up, they said, stop. It would make me happy if they stop. I mean, I was incredulous. This guy's sick. He gets more mad at Israel and the Jews than he does the terrorists. He makes me sick.
Yeah.
And Kamala will be worse, as you know. That's why she didn't even show up for Bibi Netanyahu's speech the other week. Sick. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One more thing.
And by the way, that's why she wouldn't hire the governor of Pennsylvania, who's the most rock starish, best guy in the Democrat Party right now coming up, Josh Shapiro. And she would have won Pennsylvania with him, and he didn't do it because he didn't want a Jew on the ticket with her because she would lose Michigan. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. One more thing.
Yeah.
Okay. On Kamala, you've got Reaganomics, you've got Bidenomics, and Kamala has Trickonomics. She tricks everybody into believing her. She speaks trichology.
She is. She has what I call Kamalanomics.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you know that she says Bidenomics is working over and over again? I have a nice montage of her saying that. She says it over and over again. It's working. It's working. It's working. She's excited about it. She loves Bidenomics. All right, James, thanks for your call. And by the way, the Wall Street Journal says that it'll be Bidenomics Part 2. Under all the policies she released. Bidenomics Part 2. Everything you've gotten will be Bidenomics for 4 more years, but it'll be worse. Okay, coming up next, we're going to get into the longshoreman strike. I'm telling you, do not miss this. I'll ask you if you have any sympathy for the longshoremen who are striking right now. Which presidential candidate is helped more by the longshoremen strike? And do you blame Biden and Kamala for the strike, as I do? And I will give you the definitive proof. And I'm not just saying that. I'll read their own words, and it's shocking. But the first thing I'm going to do for you is play you the thug audio. There's 2 audios that are repulsive and repugnant and it's disgusting to me. It sounds disgusting. It's reviling. Whatever. It appalls me to hear it. It's a thug mobster. And he's literally telling us, I'm bringing you to your knees by your balls, and then you're going to put the pressure on. You will care about us. You don't care about us. You will when I destroy your livelihood, your life, and everything that you depend on. I will grab your, excuse my language, I will grab you by the cojones, yank him down to the ground, and you will be crying, and I will say, now you give a bleep. Pay me money. He's a mobster. Listen to it yourself coming up next. I got 2 different audio cuts. It's unbelievable, this guy. He's a thug. And Biden says, let him lead. We're going to let him be in charge, a thug, because we don't want to lose the thugs' vote, and we'll screw over the economy. And you at the grocery store with cars, with 100,000 jobs will be lost because of this if it continues. 100,000 jobs that are nothing to do with the longshoremen. I'll explain all coming up next in the Chris Crock Show at 16 minutes after the hour on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. I want you to hear the president of the International Longshoremen Association. He is a thug, Harold Daggett. Listen to this guy. You're not going to believe this. Here we go.
It's not fair. And if we don't put our foot down now, they would like to run over us, and we're not going to allow that. People never gave a about us until now, when they finally realized that the chain is being broke now. Cars won't come in. Food won't come in. Clothing won't come in. You know how many people depend on our jobs? Half the world.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port, a lockdown. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the company's money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
Okay, that is union boss Harold Daggett made $728,000 last year, $728,000 last year. Plus, he made $173,000 as president. The guy's making $900,000 a year, and he tells us he'll cripple us. He is the president of the International Longshoremen Association. He's publicly stated he would cripple us. He owns a 70-foot-6 yacht and a Bentley with an annual salary exceeding $900,000. Despite being implicated in RICO charges, he was acquitted following the suspicious death of the primary witness against him, known mobster Lawrence Ricci, whose body was discovered in a decomposing state in the trunk of a car in New Jersey. This case is added to the controversial persona surrounding Daggett, especially given his ties to organized crime, which, although alleged, have not been legally substantiated due to the lack of witnesses or evidence following Ricci's death. Along with that, here's what I want you to know, too. Here's what they're asking for. You're not going to believe this. Now, the company has offered them, USMX has offered them over 6 years a 50% pay increase. 50% pay increase over 6 years. That's 13% a year. Can you believe that? Would you take that? I would absolutely take that. 13% a year, 50% in 6 years, over 6 years. They're demanding a 77% pay increase to $69 an hour, which is more than the West Coast longshoremen make, and they earn $233,000. So they want more than $233,000 a year. Plus, they get $99,000 in benefits, and they're threatening to shut this stuff down. They're demanding bigger container royalties, which is a union welfare program, the Wall Street Journal says, that pays longshoremen whether they work or not. It gives them royalty for stuff moved when they're not working. Half the union's members aren't even working on any given day, and they're earning money from this. And the ports are less efficient. We're not even in the top 50 efficient ports in the world because they want to stop automation. They're destroying us, and Biden supports us. I'll read you the public supports quotes in a minute. Do you have any sympathy for the longshoremen who are striking right now? Do you think a 50% pay increase, 13% a year over 6 years is enough? And which presidential campaign has helped more by the longshoremen strike? I think it's Trump. These guys are going to shut it down. Biden will not do the Smoot-Hawley Act, which would have cooling off for 60 days, 90 days, depending on who you ask. And then you wouldn't have a strike for 2 months. But he won't do it because he's pro-union. That'll kill this economy for a while. And do you blame Biden and Kamala for the strike? I do. And I'll give you the quotes that prove it in a minute. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Lines wide open. Calling right now. Chime in now. We have time to pop you on. Isn't this outrageous to say no to a 50% pay increase over 6 years, which is 13% a year? Instead, they want $69 an hour. Isn't that amazing? To move freight. $69 an hour. which is $233,000 a year. Actually, it's more than $233,000 a year. That's what West Coast makes. This is more than what they would make on wages and overtime, plus $99,000 in benefits. Isn't this insane? These people are wealthy. I mean, I need to quit my job and go move freight, and then go on strike and threaten people and say I'm going to cripple you. And you're less efficient than the top 50 ports in the world. That's how pathetic we are. So, innovation. I don't know if he can do a Reagan-esque, if Trump takes over and he can do a Reagan-esque, it'll probably be too late by then, but if he can do a Reagan-esque, fire him and, like he did with the air traffic controllers way back when. I don't know if it's that kind of a thing legally. The time-sensitive imports like food are going to quickly halt or could quickly halt. That's 1/3 of also all exports and imports coming in will be quickly halted. If it's not resolved, more than 100,000 people in America, more than 100,000 Americans could find themselves out of work, according to Oxford Economics. And that's, for example, car dealerships. If they sell foreign cars or they have imported parts for the cars, that literally could shut them down. Now, the good news is I think auto manufacturers like Mazda and Toyota have many factories in the United States of America, many of them in the South that are not union, and everybody's happy, and they're not union. Unions destroy a lot. So this is so wrong. So wrong. All right, 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-9227. Do you have any sympathy for the longshoremen striking right now? And which presidential candidate is getting helped more by the longshoremen strike? And do you blame Biden and Kamala for the strike, as I do? All right, I'll tell you what Trump says about this coming up next, and I'll give you some of the Biden quotes that shows he's on their side and is not going to do he already said he's not doing the Smoot-Hawley act to force them to go back to the bargaining table and to force them to work for the next 60 days to cool off. All right, your call next. Line's wide open. And I'm also going to get into this one after I tell you what Trump said and what Biden said. Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, who would be the first gentleman if she wins, now accused by several women of forcefully slapping his ex-girlfriend. Forcefully slapping her in public at the Cannes Film Festival for flirting with another man in a booze-fueled assault. He slapped her so hard she spun around. And there's several of her friends that confirmed this today to the Daily Mail. That's an exclusive report from the Daily Mail. He also got the nanny pregnant, and she aborted the baby when he was married to his first wife. And there's also abuse allegations with the nanny. And this guy's lecturing us now about toxic masculinity. He's a dirtbag. He's a dirtbag. Does this possibly hurt Kamala in the election? This just came out today. It's amazing. 800-288-WBAP. I'll get into that next, too. I'll give you the whole spiel on that. Coming up at 33 after the hour, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Okay, Trump on the, what do you call it, the longshoreman strike, says the strike was caused by massive inflation that was created by the Harris-Biden regime, which is very, very true, by the way. And everybody understands the dock workers because they were decimated by this inflation, just like everybody else in this country and beyond. Yeah, and that's exactly true, by the way, too. The Biden team... Oh, you got to hear this, too. This could cost the economy $4 billion a day. And eventually, if it keeps continuing, 100,000 jobs could be lost in America. Because you'd have car dealerships that don't have cars to sell and retailers and such that won't have merchandise to sell if it continues on for a couple months or so. Let me play you the Gina Raimondo, the labor secretary. This woman has no idea about this. She's not really paying attention to this, which is literally her job.
Where have you been kind of focused and hearing on what would happen if the strike goes, let's say, longer than a week?
Again, I have not been very focused on that.
I mean, I'm the labor secretary. Why would I be focused on that? Really, what did Hillary say? What difference does it make? Let's go. Let's move on to the Kamala and her husband, actually, I should say, Doug Emhoff, the second gentleman, because this is very troubling. And I do think this could affect her campaign, even ever so slightly. The media is going to cover this up and ignore it, just like they did the 600,000 plus criminal illegal migrants with murder, rape, assault, burglary charges walking our streets with impunity. But first, let's get to Doug Emhoff. This is pretty nasty. This is a little timeline. In 2009, he allegedly impregnated his child's nanny. His nanny, I should say his nanny, yeah, it was child's nanny, yeah. So he impregnated his child's nanny. He reportedly told Jane that she had to get an abortion, allegedly, and he reportedly forced her to do that, but that's all allegedly, not guaranteed. And the nanny accused him of causing her to have a miscarriage, the friends claim. Others say it's an abortion, but what do we know? All I know is he got the nanny pregnant while married to his first wife. The second gentleman is now in big trouble for another thing in 2012. So 2009, he impregnates his nanny. 2012, he's now accused by 4 women of physically assaulting his girlfriend, slapping her so hard she spun around at the Cannes Film Festival at a gala dinner, benefit dinner, and in public at the taxi line. And then in 2023, he lectures us on toxic masculinity. In 2024, he's hailed for redefining masculinity. I'm going to read you the allegations. I'm going to throw out the questions on this now, though. What do these stories and allegations say about the second gentleman and Kamala? And do you think these horrible stories and allegations could affect her chances of winning? 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Here's the blow-by-blow from the Daily Mail, who has this exclusive report today. He assaulted his girlfriend, and then the 3 friends have said to Daily Mail. He allegedly struck the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, allegedly struck the woman in the face so hard she spun around while waiting in a valet line at the late at night after a May 2012 Cannes Film Festival event in France. One of her friends told the Daily Mail the woman called her immediately after the incident. Oh, it's a him. One of her friends told the Daily Mail that she called him immediately after the incident, sobbing in her car, and described the alleged assault. She's a successful New York attorney to this day. She didn't want to give her real name out there. She didn't do an interview. Her friends did for her. A second friend said Jane, who her pseudonym, who's been dating Emhoff for 3 months at the time, told her about the alleged violence as well. So there's 3 friends that all confirmed this back at the time this happened. Second friend said she'd been dating. Okay, the third friend told the Daily Mail that Jane first told her in 2014 she dated Emhoff and recounted the full story of his alleged abuse in 2018. 6 years later, when Senator Harris was on the news for grilling the Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh in a Senate hearing over sexual assault allegations. This woman, the friends of the woman, shared a picture of her with Emhoff in 2012 when the alleged event happened, and other documents and communications corroborating that this happened. He, as I said, cheated on his first wife and mother of his 2 kids in 2008, impregnating his daughter's nanny, allegedly, they say, who also worked as her grade school teacher. Emhoff admitted the affair with the nanny and teacher. He's a great man. Emhoff told the woman, Jane, he's accused of slapping hard, that the nanny accused him of also causing her to have a miscarriage, the friends claim. But the second gentleman allegedly confessed to Jane that he paid the nanny a settlement of around $80,000, and the nanny signed a non-disclosure agreement. He had her sign that. He's also spoken out in media interviews about being an ally to women and against toxic masculinity. MSNBC host Jen Psaki told Emhoff that he reshaped the perception of masculinity. Wow. I've always been like this, Emhoff said to Psaki. To me, it's the right thing to do to support women. Well, this was at the Foundation for AIDS, AMFAR, gala dinner. Top celebrities were there on May 24th, 2012 at the Hotel du Camp Antibes near Cannes in southern France. Attendees included Antonio Banderas, Alec Baldwin, Karl Lagerfeld, Kylie Minogue, Kirsten Dunst, Paris Hilton, and now disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein. She was sobbing, a friend said. She told me she was with a guy and he hit her. It was very clear she was telling me what she was telling me. She said she was with a guy, her date. She was at the Cannes Film Festival, and he hit her. She was in the car with the guy at the time. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to call the French police. I couldn't get a hold of her after calling her back. She still had a vivid memory. This is the he. He said he had a vivid memory of the troubling conversation from 12 years ago. In later conversations, she told me more about the guy. It was something like 3 a.m. They were trying to get out there, and they both had been drinking. There was a gigantic line for taxis. She went up to the valet guy. She offered him 100 euros or whatever to get to the head of the line. She told me she put her hand on his shoulder. Doug apparently thought she was flirting, came over and slapped her in the face. She slapped him back. My impression is that he had a lot to drink. She was sobbing on the phone afterwards, but she was not slurring her words. She told me she broke up with him that night. A second friend said they had dinner. Doug was very charming, very lovely. Then I believe 2 or 3 a.m. It was still raging, but she was wearing 4-inch heels and a floor-length gown, so it was time to depart. She said there'd been no fight before he hit her. You would have thought it was a fairy tale trip. She put her hand on the valet's shoulder, and as she was talking to him, Doug comes up. She said she turned around, she turned her around by her right shoulder. She was completely caught off guard. He hauled up and slapped her so hard she spun around. She said she was in utter shock. She was so furious she slapped him on one side and then on the other cheek with the other hand. There you go. What do these stories and allegations say about the second gentleman and Kamala? And do you think these horrible stories and allegations could affect her chances of winning? 800-288-WBAP is our number. 4 lines open, 800-288-9227. Gary in Southmaid? Southmaid, you're on WBAP. Hello, what's up?
Yes, sir. Southmaid. It's a big town of Southmaid.
Okay.
But on for that other guy about that situation, about him slapping, all I have to say, if that was my daughter, we would have had some physical counseling. But actually, what I'm calling about is the strike.
Well, let me ask you something. What do you think about, real fast, about the second gentleman with these accusations of impregnating his nanny and slapping his ex-girlfriend? Do you think he's an ally to women and an ally against toxic masculinity, and that he has reshaped the perception of masculinity, as they say on the left?
Well, sir, like your screen caller asked me, I said if I had to explain myself, you couldn't put it on the radio.
Okay. All right. Now, your thing on the longshoremen. Yes, they want they've shut down. And they're striking. They want a 77% raise.
No, but I'm not even talking about anything. What I don't understand, I didn't realize how much we depended on other countries for our country,
right,
the United States, to survive.
Right.
And nobody's bringing that up.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad. Except for Trump. Trump is bringing that up. He says that he's going to punish companies that are from overseas. Our companies that send stuff, have it made overseas and send it in, he will punish them with a tariff. And he's also saying that he will tariff certain foreign countries sending it here.
Interrupt you.
Hold on real fast. Let me finish off. You don't have to interrupt me because let me just finish. I'm almost done. He also says that he's going to take the corporate tax down to 15%. It encouraged them to build here by giving them 15% on their taxes instead of a 7% higher tax on their on companies that they have right now.
No, I didn't realize our United States. I mean, we have coal mines, we have ore mines, and we have farmers. Why are we relying on other countries?
I agree. And in fact, that's what J.D. Vance said last night. He said our prescriptions are all made in China, and that's wrong. They're our adversary. We should be having it made here. We're going to bring that back.
Exactly, and I can't wait. I couldn't believe that when I heard that. I mean, I just listen to I have WBAP all day long on my garage. And I listen. But somebody else said that it was like 50% that we relied on other countries. That's ridiculous.
I agree, and I appreciate your call, Gary. All right, coming up next. Oh, by the way, guess what else? We're going to get into this a little bit coming up shortly. In fact, it might be next. Let's look at my list. Okay, it's coming up in a couple more topics, but FEMA... Trump just tweeted out this. FEMA has spent north of $1 billion resettling illegals, Kamala and Joe's illegals, into America over the last 2 years. Meanwhile, they're running out of agency to respond to they're running out of money to respond to Hurricane Helene, which has left the entire communities destroyed. Not only that, but Rick Scott, senator, who goes into disaster areas all the time outside of Florida, in choppers, delivering aid, using his weight, and he's done it so many times he's got it down to a science, to bring in aid as a U.S. senator to all over the country when it happens. And he was in a chopper talking to Martha McCallum this afternoon on Fox News, and he literally said a majority of the FEMA workers have been redirected into helping Kamala and Joe's illegals. A majority of them are there helping Kamala and Joe's illegals. That's why they can't help. They're not helping nearly as much. And FEMA lies and said they were on the ground on Monday. I will play you audio a little later when we get into this with Helene in North Carolina. They haven't seen FEMA. It's been 6 days, and they have not seen FEMA. 6 days. And Joe Biden's going to show up on the 7th day when George Bush was just attacked ad infinitum, called a failure for not showing up in Hurricane Katrina until 4 days later. And Biden is going to show up, and Kamala's going to show up 7 days later, and nobody's holding them account and attacking them when Bush was grilled and thrown into the fire on the 4th day? Are you kidding me? And Bush was grilled for looking out of the plane and flying over Katrina when these guys, Kamala didn't go there, and Kamala didn't even fly over the plane. She didn't even look out the window. She faked the thing with her phone not even plugged in, and she got the headphone thing in, and she's got nothing on her paper. And she's like she's working here, talking to the FEMA director. She ain't doing nothing. All right, we'll get into that coming up in a little bit. But right now, Jocelyn Nungare, the 12-year-old raped and murdered by Joe and Kamala's illegals, are now suspected Trinidad Agua members. I've got so much more on how bad things are and where our country is headed. And we're going to talk to you about what Trump's chances are of winning. Do you think these horrifying Trinidad Agua stories in neighborhoods all over our country, in Wisconsin, Virginia, Georgia, New York City, Texas, Chicago, Colorado, and Houston, do you think these will affect who wins the presidency? Could affect who wins? And could he possibly, that's Joe and Kamala, could he possibly do anything worse than he's already done to hurt Kamala's chances of winning? We'll get to that coming up next. Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Well, I want to I'm going to ask you some questions, actually, about Trump. I'm going to make this about Trump and his chances. The Trinidad Agua story is absolutely horrifying, but I want to tie that in with a few other things that just came in today. I'll give you them. Jocelyn Nungare, the 12-year-old who was raped for 2 hours by two illegals that Kamala and Joe invited in and stamped and brought them right in to rape and kill a 12-year-old innocent girl. They are now believed to be Trinidad Agua gang members that they were led in by Joe and Kamala. I'm going to tie that. I'm going to give you details on that in a second. But I'm going to tie that in with NBC News poll today. It says that 2/3 of voters right now, 2/3 of all American voters say the country is on the wrong track. Actually, it's 65% of, to be exact, that's 2/3 of all the voters say the country is on the wrong track, and it's the first time it's been that way. It's been that way for a while now. So you got 2/3 say everything's in the wrong direction. You've got more Trinidad Agua reports on violent rapes. And then you also have from Fox News, Bill Malugin, a new heavily redacted DHS Inspector General report says that they found CBP, ICE, and TSA did not fully assess risks associated with releasing non-citizens without ID into the U.S. and allowing them to travel on domestic flights. Under the current process, we cannot ensure they are keeping high-risk non-citizens without ID from entering the country. Cannot ensure that its vetting and screening procedures prevent high-risk non-citizens who may pose a threat to flying public from onboard domestic flights. What does that mean? Your wife and your daughter might be raped or groped on a flight. This is Joe and Kamala. They're raping and killing you. So, what do you think Trump's chances are of winning as of right now when you kind of take all this and put it together? Do you think these horrifying Tren de Aragua and illegal migrant stories from Kamala and Joe in neighborhoods all over the country will affect who wins this presidency? You got Tren de Aragua in both two small cities, in Whitewater, Wisconsin, and in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. In Prairie du Chien, tying up a woman and her daughter and raping them and beating them with an axe. In Virginia, murdering a mother of 5 and raping her. In Georgia, Lake and Riley. In New York City, they're running the streets, gang shooting at cops. In Texas, they're in Houston murdering Jocelyn Nungre. And they're in North Dallas now, and in El Paso, and they're also in San Antonio and Austin. According to my officials I have on the show, they're in Colorado and in Chicago. Do you think this could affect who wins the presidency? And could Trump possibly do anything worse than he's already done to affect his chances of winning? I don't think so. I was thinking about that today. He's not going to get any worse because there's nothing more he can do. They released new things about a new indictment, Jack Smith, like 63 days before the election or 38 days, I don't know, whatever. It's insane. When they did this with Hillary, they attacked the heck out of, what's his name, the former FBI director. And he came out and gave a press conference because he was like, I don't want to hurt our chances. And yet this is going on. It's not going to affect though. Everybody's already been asked about this. They don't care. They don't care. They want their economy back, and they want the stability in the world back. All right, 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. I'll give you the details on why the Jocelyn Nungre rapers and murderers are Tren de Aragua, what the investigators think. Coming up next at 3 minutes after the hour on Chris Crock Show. And then, have you seen Will Ferrell with a transgender man going all over the country, including in Texas? There's a controversial visit in Texas that they're complaining about. I'll tell you what happened with that. Also coming up next, 3 minutes after the hour on Chris Crock Show, WBAP.